Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this professional learning opportunity. I am Jessica Roberts, a marketing specialist for NCEA, and I'll be facilitating today's webinar. Just a few housekeeping notes as people are joining. If anyone has any questions during the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A window. We will be monitoring the questions and try to answer all of them in the time allotted. At the end of the session, I will share a link to the online survey and information on how to receive a certificate of completion for today's webinar. Today's webinar, Burning Up Instead of Burning Out, Strategies to Tackle Educator Fatigue, is brought to you by Dr. John Parker, author, speaker, and professional development provider, and Kendall Hunter, product marketing manager for Otis. The webinar will explore the techniques to manage stress and strategies for maintaining harmony between your personal life and work, importance of self-care, and ways to keep your intellectual spark alive through teaching strategies, collaboration with colleagues, and ongoing professional development. Before I turn it over to our presenters, let's go ahead and begin in prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty God, we come to you today to give thanks for all our teachers. Thank you for the way in which they give themselves each day to the classroom, serving and instructing the next generation of this land. We thank you for all of them now. Father, fill their hearts with the courage by your Holy Spirit. Fill them with your strength so they may rise to every challenge and not grow weary. Fill them with your wisdom so that we may be able to make good judgment when guiding and helping others. Fill them with your peace so that when stress and anxiety comes, it will not overwhelm them. Fill them with your joy so that the passion they have for their subject may become an infectious passion that spreads. We ask this in all your wonderful name, Jesus. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So Dr. Dawn Parker and Kendall Hunter, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and switch it over to Kendall and let her take it away.
Thank you so much, Jessica. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today, and I hope you're having a great day. My name is Kendall Hunter. I'm the product marketing manager here at Otis. I'm also a former middle school special education teacher, certified reading specialist. So it's a pleasure to be with all the Catholic educators on the call here with us today. If you haven't heard of Otis, we are a platform that was really born right in a middle school classroom and created by a teacher who really felt the weight of all the disconnected technologies that K-12 schools have, and really knew that there needed to be a better way to leverage all the data that educators collect to really impact student growth. So that's why Otis has all the tools you need to gather, visualize, and act on data. We really, really believe that when you have all the tools you need in one place, you can focus on your students, and really that's what matters most. At Otis, I've had the absolute pleasure of working with Dr. Don Parker for quite a few months now, and he is truly an inspiration. So we are so excited to have him here for you all today. As Jessica mentioned, Dr. Parker is going to be discussing educator burnout and really sharing tangible ways you can avoid feeling burned out. As a former teacher, I know the importance myself of taking care of yourself so you can take care of your students. Later in the session, I'm going to just spend a very quick few minutes showing you one of my favorite time-saving tools in Otis. But for now, I'd like to hand it off to Dr. Don Parker, who'll be leading us through this session. Hey, Dr. Parker.
Hi, Kendall. Thank you, Kendall. Thank you, Jessica. Yes, educators, today we're going to talk about how you burn up with passion instead of burning out from stress and fatigue. I'm just going to start with a short introductory video, and then we're going to jump right into this content.
My name is Dr. Don Parker, and my passion is working with administrators and teachers to build positive relationships with students. I support teachers in teaching pro-social behavior and building students' social and emotional learning skills. I now travel all across the United States, helping districts to enhance school climate to where everyone feels included, accepted, and valued. I would love to work with you as well to increase your students' achievement. Let's go.
All right, everyone, let's go. That's just a quick background of my experiences. I started off as a health and PE teacher in Chicago Public Schools. That was my first job out of college at 22 years old. The fortunate thing about this is I was expecting that I would teach all PE classes, but it just so happened that I was giving all health classes on my schedule. This is really good because if you know anything about the health curriculum, it is closely tied to social and emotional learning. I was teaching so many students from tumultuous backgrounds on how to, do social emotional skills as far as self-awareness, manage their anger, make positive choices, eat healthy, and a lot of situations like that where students would come to me and just let me know how the content that we were teaching in the health curriculum really helped them feel better, healthier, and improve their self-esteem. And so it's great because that experience as a health teacher just led into all of my other experiences as a high school dean, a high school assistant principal for discipline, assistant principal for curriculum instruction, a high school athletic director, and even as a principal, because I just took everything I learned about how to teach students how to make positive choices. And that just transferred over into all of my other roles in education. And so I'm going to talk a lot about what I've learned as far as self-care. And I'm going to speak specifically to my problem when I was faced with the same issue that a lot of educators are faced with now, how I was overwhelmed, how I was burnt out, and how I just couldn't find my way off of this treadmill, and how my self-care and my health just continued to just spiral downward. But then I'm going to share with you how I turned it around, and you can take just some pointers from me and you can apply them to your life so you can also turn around that downward spiral of poor health, being burnt out, being stressed out, so you can get back to burning up with passion and do your job with excitement and joy. All right, now, a lot of us are excellent at dealing with stress. We know how to have a cup of coffee in the morning before work, and some of us like to have a nice glass of wine after work, just to mellow out a little bit. So go ahead, type in the chat. Do you prefer white wine or red wine? Go ahead. If it's white, just type white. If you prefer red wine, type red. All right, let's engage a little bit. This is going to be a hands-on webinar because I'm going to ask you guys to participate with me in the chat. So go ahead, put that in the chat. Do you prefer red wine or white wine? Now, some of us are not, great with dealing with stress because this is how we look at the beginning of the day. However, this is how we look at the end of the school day because we are working so hard and we are getting so stressed out because I understand that education is tough. Being a teacher is tough, it's challenging. Yes, it is rewarding, but sometimes it can wear us out mentally and emotionally. And so I want you guys to understand that burnout is a real thing. Just the other night, my phone rang. It was about 11 o'clock in the evening. And when I answered the phone, it was one of my former teachers and coaches who was on my staff when I was an athletic director at a high school. And he just started off by asking me, "Hey, Don, how are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing great. How are you doing?" He said, "Honestly, I'm not doing too great." I said, "Well, what's going on?" He said, "Well, I took a job at this school as a special education teacher because as an art teacher, I got tired of being ripped at the end of every school year. So I took this job as a special ed teacher, and this is my third year doing special education. I get to work every morning around 7:30, and then I do all the things that I have to do. I'm trying to keep up with the paperwork, teach my students, do all my professional responsibilities. And then after school, I coach. And I don't get home until about 7 o'clock at night. And then I eat dinner. And next thing you know, I open up my laptop and I find myself doing more work. And I find myself falling asleep on my couch every night. And I just can't take it anymore. So I was calling to see if you could write me a letter of recommendation because I'm going to take a job as a college admissions director. I said, "That's fine." I said, "How soon do you need the letter of recommendation? Do you need it, by the end of the week, by the end of the school year? What's your plan?" He said, "No, I need it by tomorrow because that's when I plan on leaving my job as a teacher." And my heart was broken because this person was a really effective teacher, really committed to his students. But he said, "Don, I'm sorry to just leave the profession like this, but you know what? I feel like I'm living my job and I'm not living my life." And if you feel like that sometimes you're living your job instead of living your life, type job in the chat. All right, go ahead and type JOB in the chat if you feel like you're living your job and you're not living your life. And education is a very demanding career because it does cause for us to be on 100% energy during the day. And then it also causes us we think that we're giving the students homework, but we also take home a lot of homework ourselves, find ourselves working from home late hours. Here's what the teacher burnout statistics say. 46% of teachers work more than 50 hours a week, and 38% work 40 to 45 hours a week due to the workload. And 51% of teachers feel as if they don't have a life and are not able to spend, quality time with their loved ones. 65% of teachers show signs of burnout and suffer from bad physical and mental health. And the research from Nutmeg Education also found that 44% of the K through 12 teachers reported that they are burnt out. And this is recent research from 2023. Now, 55% of female teachers reported that they are burnt out, while 44% of the male teachers say that they're burnt out. And around 55% of teachers say that they want to leave the profession due to excessive workload. So if you can relate to that, just put workload in the chat. Put workload in the chat, because those are what the recent statistics say about teacher burnout. Now, as an athletic director, this is when I experienced my burnout. My job was really showing up to work every day at 7:30. And from 7:30 to 4 o'clock, I was the assistant principal where I ran 5 departments, where I did all the supervising, hiring, and teacher evaluations for 5 departments. But then from 4:30 to 9 o'clock, Monday through Thursday, I had to put on my athletic director hat, where I had to run and make sure that all of our after-school sporting events were running smooth. I was over 28 sports teams, and I was over 60 extracurricular activities. And it was a very demanding job. And Fridays were the worst, because if you guys are familiar with Friday night lights, on those Friday night varsity games, they started at 7:30 and they wouldn't end sometimes until 10:30. And we had to make sure that we got the money from the concession stand, the money from the ticket booth, bring it back to the office, count it, make sure that the visiting team was on their bus and off their way, and make sure that our locker rooms were cleared out. And literally, I wasn't leaving until about 11:30 or 12 o'clock on those Friday night lights. And so one day I got extremely sick and I went to the doctor. I was feeling this severe pain in my side. And I know that I had been neglecting my health, not eating healthy, not getting enough rest. And eventually it led to this health scare where when I went to the doctor and told him I had this severe pain in my side, he palpated around my abdomen region and said that he needed to do a CT scan. So he did a CT scan. The CT scan came back and he said that based on the CT scan, I had a condition that was called diverticulitis. And I said, Doc, what is that? He said, well, diverticulitis is a condition where you can form pockets in your colon. And instead of food expelling through your colon like it's supposed to, it gets caught in those pockets. And the real danger with this is just like food, if you leave it out, it rots. He was like, it's the same thing if it's inside your body and doesn't get expelled, then it rots and it can become very infectious. And if that infection spills over into your bloodstream, if one of those pockets bursts, then you can get very ill, where you can become septic and die. And this got me so scared. And so the doctor said, well, I have a few questions for you. I said, wait a minute, doc, I got a few questions for you first. I said, how did this happen to me? I said, I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I don't do drugs. And he turned to me with his Indian voice, and he said in a joking manner, he said, well, my friend, maybe you should. And he said, no, serious. He said, I have some questions for you. He said, does any of your parents or relatives, do they have this condition? I said, not that I know of. And he said, well, tell me about your lifestyle. And I told him about the very lifestyle that I told you about, my long work hours, how I was not eating as healthy as I should, how I wasn't getting enough rest. And he said, well, diverticulitis is an old man's disease. And to see it in a patient your age, he said, it can only be brought on by one thing. I said, what's that, doc? He said, stress. He said, you need to change your lifestyle, young man. And he told me, he said, work on yourself or somebody else will. And this is a quote that I want you to paste in the back of your mind right now. Work on yourself or somebody else will. So when he told me that, I did good for about 2 weeks, but I went right back into my same habits. And so think about it. If you have a cell phone, most of us, we always monitor the battery life on our cell phone. And whenever we need to recharge, we stop what we're doing and we plug our cell phone into the battery, into the source where the battery can be charged. The question is, why don't we do the same when we get tired? How come we don't recharge our own batteries? Guys, we have to make sure that we make self-care a priority. Now, I fell into this trap and I was back into the same where I was working so many nights where it caused a rift in my relationship with my wife. He looked at me one morning on my way to work as I was rushing out to get to work by 7 o'clock. He said, "Dad," he's like, "I feel like I'm doing this alone. I'm taking care of the kids' schedule. I'm working a job on my own. I'm paying all the bills in the house, taking care of all the finances. At this time, we have a second child." And she said, "I feel like I'm a single parent, that I didn't sign up in this marriage to be a single parent. I need to see you around more. I need your help. I need your support." And so I was stressed out having that conversation with my wife that morning when I went to work. And I will say that my wife would bring my youngest daughter to my job to see me. My daughter was involved in a lot of school activities. She was very good in acting and singing, and she was the lead for many plays. And don't judge me when I say this, but I missed so much of that. And it was so bad that my wife had to bring my daughter to me in between when the students got out of school and before those sports activities and competitions started. My wife would bring my daughter to see me because every night by the time I got home, my daughter was already asleep. My daughter was missing me and I was missing her. And so I didn't have any quality time with my wife or my children. I was literally living my job and not living my life. And so one Friday night, I had to host a varsity basketball game and I was very ill. And I just felt myself getting more and more sick, where the pain moved from my stomach to my abdomen to my back. And I had to rush from my job to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, the doctor did another CT scan. And he said, "Don, your colon is so inflamed with so much diverticuli, you have to have emergency surgery. I need you to call your closest of kin so I can discuss the surgery procedure. But you have to have emergency surgery. So get your closest of kin up here and I'll discuss what has to happen." And so I hurried up, called my wife, and she had my mother come over to watch my kids. And she came and met me and the doctor at the hospital. And the doctor said, "Look, here's what's going to happen. I have to do emergency colon surgery because his colon is so inflamed with so much diverticuli." He said, "Here's what can happen during this surgery." He said, "Number one, here's the best case scenario. I can start the surgery. I can cut out all of the bad infected colon, and then I can reattach the parts of the colon that's healthy. And then I could sew you up. And then you would just have the regular recovery time, about 6 weeks to 2 or 3 months, depending on how fast you heal." He said, "But I have to let you know what could actually happen during the surgery." He said, "The diverticuli is so bad." He said that I can start this surgery, but the colon walls, they are weak. And if I find that they're too weak, then I can cut out all the bad diverticuli, and then I will have to give Don a colonostomy bag, and I will have to wait until about 3 to 5 months until his colon gets strong enough for me to reattach it. And he will have to wear a colonostomy bag for the next 5 months until I can go back in to complete the surgery. And he said, "Here's the third thing that can happen. I can start this surgery, but his diverticuli is so bad." He's like, "What could happen is one of these pockets can burst. And if one of those pockets bursts, he would go septic. At that point, I can try a Whipple procedure, but those are rarely successful. And it's a possibility that he can die right here on my operating table." And when he said that, my wife said, "Okay, doc, leave the room for a second." And so the doctor left the room. My wife just started to pray for me. And she's prayed, and I prayed for myself that I make it through the surgery successful, because myself, I wanted to be around for my wife and children because my daughters were young. And I wanted to be healthy because I felt like I didn't come this far to just come this far. So I made a promise during that prayer to God that I would start living my life and make things a priority that's supposed to be a priority. And the doctor came back into the room and he said, "Are you ready for this procedure?" My wife said, "Yes, we're ready because we pray for Don and we pray for you that he will have a smooth surgery." Next thing you know, the doctor put me to sleep and started the surgery. And I woke up 18 hours later after that emergency surgery. And when I woke up 18 hours later, the doctor came into my room and He said, young man, just because you had this surgery, it doesn't mean that it's a panacea to what's really going on. He said, we have to have a come to Jesus meeting. And if you don't make changes to your lifestyle, you're going to end up right back here, or worse. It could be worse the next time, and you can actually die. So he said, you need to change or you will die young. And then his nurse rode in a cart. And his cart had this big plastic bag with a lot of red fluid in it. And the doctor said, he held up that plastic bag with all the fluid. And he said, this is blood. He's like, and this is 3 feet of your colon that I have cut out of you. And then he asked me, young man, what is it that you need to cut out of your life? And at that point, it was really a shock for me because I really had to do some self-reflection. And I really had to make some changes so I would stop burning out, getting stressed out, and having more stress in my life, which led to health problems. So here's my question to you. What is stressing you out? What is on your plate that is too much for you to do? And what is it that you need to cut out of your life so you can make your health and your family a priority? What is it for you? Go ahead, type that in the chat. What is it that you need to cut out of your life? All right, so guys, a lot of us are just doing too much. And so if you look at this hamster on a treadmill, okay, we're used to the sayings that say, if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. Or hey, no pain, no gain. Or you must prove yourself. Or get on your grind. Or pay your dues. All right, this is what we hear over and over and over again in culture. But this is not the way life is supposed to be. Okay? I heard a pastor say the other day, and since this is a Catholic presentation, I would say this. A pastor challenged me. He said, hey, when was it where you ever saw that Jesus was running in the Bible? And he said, stop. He said, I'll wait. If you can point to one point in the Bible where Jesus was running or rushing. He said it didn't happen. All right, he did what he had to do, and then he rested. Now, don't mistake activity for achievement. And this is a quote by John Wooden. Just because we're busy, just because we're doing a lot, and sometimes we wear that like a badge of honor, like we're working late night, or we're burning ourselves out. We're burning the candle at both ends. Okay, but that is not healthy. And so in Chicago, if you guys know, there's a lot of traffic in Chicago, and this is construction season. So I was taking a commute back from the northern suburbs the other day. And here's an analogy for you. All right, the regular speed limit in Chicago is 55 miles per hour. And of course, you know, most of us, we go several miles per hour over the speed limit. We're just used to going fast. But as I was driving on a highway and I saw that speed limit sign that said 55 miles per hour, I then saw a road work ahead construction sign. And after I saw that sign, about a mile up the road, I saw this merge sign. And so the lane was merging. One lane was closing. And so we were merging from 3 lanes to 2 lanes. And then I saw this sign that said speed limit is 45 miles per hour. So here's the point, guys. We're moving very fast, but we can't ignore the signs when we see that there's work that needs to be done. And as we're doing so much work, right, so many things in our life are merging together where we just don't have enough time to keep, or enough energy to keep going at the pace which we're going. And so life is telling us to slow down, but many times we ignore those signs. And what happens if we ignore those signs? An accident can happen, or something that's hazardous to your health can happen, or even the people who are out there doing construction, they could get hurt if people are ignoring those signs and ignoring the speed limits. Okay, the point is, if you ignore the signs, you will continue going at a pace that your body can't sustain, and your relationships can get injured, or you yourself can get damaged, you know, because we're not paying attention to the signs. So sometimes, guys, we have to pay attention to the signs and slow down. Now, here's some signs and symptoms of burnout. I didn't want you to ignore those road signs, and I definitely don't want you to ignore the signs that your mental and physical self are giving you. So some of the signs of burnout, as you guys know, it's right there on the screen. All right, exhaustion, depression, withdrawal. You feel overwhelmed and cynical. You feel frustrated and unfulfilled. Sometimes you may feel a headache or muscle tension. You may have trouble sleeping. Now think about this. If you go to church on Sunday morning and you get a great message from the pastor and you're all amped up and you're ready for the week, but then 4 o'clock starts rolling around and it's time for you to start thinking about work the next day. All right. From what most teachers say is that Sunday night is their worst night of sleep because they are dreading getting up and going to work on Monday. And some of the people also reported that they have a sense of apathy where they find themselves over complaining about work and things happening on the job, how they feel depleted after work, very irritable, and find themselves losing their temper. And this is research from Tiffany Maliki just recently in 2002. Those are signs and symptoms of burnout. Now, what I want you to do is type in the chat, what signs and symptoms of burnout are you experiencing? So go ahead, let's stop for a second and we'll look in the chat. What are some signs and symptoms of burnout that you feel yourself experiencing? Okay, so I see Sunday night blues from Kendall. Feeling overwhelmed. Depression, absolutely. Frustration, yes. Loss of sleep. Stacy said exhaustion. Polly said fatigue, unable to sleep. Absolutely. Thank you guys for chiming in. Cindy said trouble sleeping. Yep, because we have so much on our mind. All right, our mind is racing. All right, so let's continue. All right. So stress and burnout are two different things. The doctor said that stress is a silent killer. Stress is characterized by over-engagement, while burnout is characterized by disengagement. Stress, that's when you feel emotions are overreactive, where you're just so stressed out, you're just trying to get everything done, so you increase your activity. All right, burnout, emotions are blunted. All right, stress produces urgency and hyperactivity where you're moving fast. It's like if you had to cram for a test, you have one day before the test and you cram that night before, your urgency, you have a sense of urgency and hyperactivity. However, let's say if you just knew you were going to bomb that test, you feel helpless and hopeless. That's burnout. Right? Loss of energy is caused by stress. Loss of motivation is caused by burnout. And then stress leads to anxiety disorders where burnout leads to detachment and depression. And the primary damage from stress is physical, but the primary damage from burnout is emotional. And stress, yes, it can kill you prematurely, but burnout, it can make you feel as if life is not worth living. I've been there, I've done that, I had to turn it around, and I want you to turn it around. Because the 5 most mentioned feelings among all educators were anxiousness, fearful, worried, overwhelmed, and sad were the words that educators use to describe their feelings. Now, we're used to having crucial conversations with colleagues. As a principal, I had crucial conversations with my teachers, with my students' parents, and with my students whenever we had to talk about certain issues that were affecting students' education, whether it was behavior, whether it was a teacher's lack of performance, or whether it was me talking with the parent, letting them know what I need from them in order to, get their students' behavior on track. I'm used to having these crucial conversations with other people. However, I found that it was hard for me to have a crucial conversation with myself when it came to my health and my emotional health and my physical and intellectual health. Whenever I would start these conversations, I would just start uncovering a lot of things that I didn't like about myself. It's as if I opened up a can of worms. But there's a quote that says the only way to get through hell is to keep going. And so instead of stopping myself in the middle of these conversations because I didn't like what I was discovering, I had to keep going, all right? So I can get out of this rat race and out of these emotional feelings that I was feeling. And so I had to face my fears because fears will leave you stuck like a deer in the headlights. So I want to help you deal with that anxiety and deal with that fear. Now, what did I fear the most? One thing that I feared the most was my youngest daughter. She was diagnosed with a FOXP1 gene mutation and autism. And the doctor told us when we found out what was going on with her, when we found out at a very young age that she would have what you call a lifelong disability of a FOXP1 gene mutation and severe autism. The doctor said she has a severe speech delay, intellectual delay, and motor delay. So he said she has a global delay where she would need daily assisted living for the rest of her life. And so I always wondered what would become of my baby girl when me and my wife are no longer around? I'm worried about that. Who was going to make sure that she's getting what she needs? I want to make sure no one was taking advantage of her. I wanted to make sure she was living in a place where they would give her the proper support, where she wouldn't suffer from neglect. And this was always on the back of my mind when I found out this diagnosis about my daughter. And so when I talked to my therapist about this, he said, Don, you need to get to the root of the problem. And then he said, what do you need to do? He said, are you really worried about what her future is because you feel like, people will take advantage of her? Or he said, you need to read in between the lines. Are you really worried because you're not doing what you can right now to ensure she will have a bright future? And then he asked me, what can you do right now to ensure your daughter will have a bright future? Because I don't know if you're worried about her having a bright future or not, or the reason you're worried is because you feel like you can't do what you need to do in order to ensure she has a bright future. And so here's my thing, guys. If you really want the correct answers to why you're having so much anxiety and to what it is that you're fearing, you have to read in between the lines and ask yourself the right questions. If you want to come up with the right answers, based on what my therapist told me, is you have to ask yourself the right questions. What am I afraid of? What can I be doing now in order to alleviate that fear? Or what can I do now in order to take matters into my own hands? Okay, because we cannot let this thing that we have so much anxiety about linger. I can quote researchers, I can quote other educators, and I can quote rappers. And a rapper said, beef with me hangs around like an unpaid bill. And so in other words, you have this anxiety and this fear, this thing that you're worrying about because you're not meeting it head on. And that's why it continues to linger. So he said, what I want you to do is make a list of all the things that you can do to ensure that your daughter will have a bright future. So when you are no longer around and when your wife is no longer around because you don't want to outlive your children, he said, you have to make sure you have things in place to make sure she'll be taken care of. And so I did that. So when we started down this road of inquiry, I said, okay, I can make investments. I can do estate planning to make sure that when me and my wife pass, that everything that we have goes to my two daughters. So it doesn't go to probate, and they can use our assets, liquidate them. They can have everything they need in order to make sure that my daughter's needs are taken care of. Then I got life insurance. My wife got life insurance. Anything happens to us, our daughters are set. And then I use my employee benefits to get ABA therapy for my daughter to help her reach her full potential. And then I started putting money to the side for my daughter to make sure that I'm being responsible parent planning for her future. And then we moved her from the regular public school into a special school that they work solely with students who have intellectual delays and autism and other intellectual and physical delays. And they have a better track record. They're more effective at helping students with special needs reach their full potential. And then I set up my retirement. And so I made sure I did these things to make sure that my daughter will have a bright future, and any special care or any special things or living situations that she needed, she will have the finances to do or to get those services that she would need as an adult. And so once I did that, it alleviated that fear. And so now when I'm doing work, I can focus on work. I don't have that worry in my background, and I can be sharper at work. When I'm doing leisure activities with my family, instead of being so sympathetic, when I look at my daughter, I can look at her with joy, and I can appreciate that she's having a good time and enjoying herself, and that we can continue to have moments like this because I know that her future is secure. So guys, make a list of things that you can do, actions that you can take to alleviate that fear that you have, so that fear will no longer control you, but you can be proactive and take matters into your own hands. And that will reduce your anxiety significantly because you know you're taking the proper actions, whether it's related to your health, whether it's related to your relationships, whether it's related to your children, your finances. Write down what you can do right now to alleviate that fear. Now, I sense that there's some people on this call that are worried about their relationships. You're worried about your health. You're worried about your finances. Okay, I'm here to tell you that you can take positive action right now to alleviate those fears. Now, let's talk about health for a minute. All right, I'm going to put up a picture of Tom Brady because Tom Brady has achieved what a lot of us want to achieve, where he was so great at what he did as an NFL quarterback. He was one of the best, and He had longevity. Who doesn't want to be a top performer on their jobs? And who doesn't want longevity where you can be really good for a really long time? Everybody wants that. So if we talk about physical health, if we look at some of Tom Brady's habits, he said that one of the reasons he was able to perform at such a high level and keep his body in such great shape is his diet, his nutrition. He said, if it came from a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, don't. And that's kind of the prescription he followed for himself. He said he wanted to put foods in his body that fuels him. And he knew that it would be tough to eat healthy all the time. He said, but he wanted to make it habitual. So what he did was practice drinking a healthy smoothie in the morning, drinking healthy smoothies at lunch, and then eating a well-balanced, healthy dinner. And so nutrition is very important. Here's the deal. You guys are like cars. And you guys are luxury cars, like Mercedes and BMWs, and let's even say Maseratis, Porsches. Yes, you guys are teachers. You guys are special. And so if you think about those cars, you have to put premium gas in those cars in order for them to run effectively. And think about if you're putting the wrong thing into your body, you will not be able to perform at an optimal level. So you guys deserve the best. So what I want to encourage you to do is put what's best for your body inside your body. Now let's talk about LeBron James. 38 years old, in his 19th season, he's only suffered from 1 or 2 major injuries. His performance on the court, according to the Business Insider, is he knows that it's due to his physique, and his body is his most valuable asset. And according to the Business Insider, he invests $1.5 million a year to maintain his body. And that covers the cost from his gym, his trainers, his massagists, his therapists, and his nutritionists. Now, I know you guys are saying, Dr. Parker, I don't have $1.5 million to spend on my health. Okay, but here's the trick that I want to tell you guys. I want you to type the word invest in the chat. Go ahead and type invest in the chat. He invests $1.5 million in his body. Now, think about this. $1.5 million is a small percentage of his annual salary. Here's what I want you to think about as an educator, what you can do. Let's say if you can take a small percentage of your annual salary and invest that back in your health. According to the National Center of Education Statistics, the average U.S. teacher salary is $62,000. All right, that's the average. You may make more or you may make less, but I just want you to do the math, and you can do the math for yourself for your annual salary. So if I took $62,000 and spanned it over 12 months, that gives me $5,166. If I took 10% of that, all right, that gives me $516 a month. Can you invest 10% of your monthly salary back into your health? All right, that's the question. All right, can you take a small amount of your salary, whatever you're comfortable with, and invest that back into your health? You deserve it. What did that look like for me when I started doing that? See, a lot of us, when we think about spending money, we think about we don't have that money to spend because it's not coming back to us. So we want to save all of our money. But the word was invest. When you think about making investment, you have to think about the ROI, or return on investment. So yes, you're investing that money. However, you will live healthy. And so by not spending that money, you're probably detracting from your health, because real wealth is health. And that's what they say. Health is wealth. So this is what it looked like for me. I invested in a gym membership. If you don't want to go to the gym, you can invest in home gym equipment, eating healthier foods, self-care, massage, workout gear. I had to get a babysitter because, like I said, my youngest daughter has special needs. Me and my wife couldn't leave her alone. And so we would pay a babysitter to watch her while we worked out, or we joined a gym later on that would, give us childcare. So we could drop my 2 daughters off in the childcare section of the gym, and they would watch her while we worked out. It cost $10 extra per month to do that, but it was well worth it. And I invested in vitamins and supplements, and I didn't need a trainer because I was a PE and fitness major. So I didn't need a trainer. I just needed to be more healthy and go to the gym. So remove the barriers that's keeping you from working out. You have to think about what barriers are keeping me from working out, and remove those barriers and invest the time and money into your health. At work, sometimes I didn't eat healthy. I would go out And the meal that I would eat for lunch always came with a side of greasy fries. I learned how to spend money at the grocery store on little snacks that I can eat throughout the day. And then I would eat more healthy. So I spent money on groceries so I could eat healthy. And that was part of my investing in myself. And so let me just tell you the power of working out. Now, this is what I looked like before getting in shape. I would always wear a suit jacket, and I would button up the bottom button of my suit jacket. And people say, Don, you're not supposed to button up that third button on your suit jacket. You're supposed to leave that open. That's just, how you're supposed to wear a suit jacket. But I would always cover up the unflattering parts of my body because I was self-conscious, because I was way overweight from not exercising and not eating healthy. And this is what I looked like before living more healthy, eating healthy, and exercising. And this is what I look like now as a result of eating healthier, working out, being consistent, and just having an overall healthier lifestyle. And now I feel better about the way I look and the way I feel. So here's the analogy here. When I was a principal and had to walk around this huge school, I would prefer to wear my gym shoes instead of wearing my dress shoes. Why? Because my gym shoes, they were better. They were better off for me because I had to do a lot of steps, and my feet would start hurting in those dress shoes. And so the reason I'm showing you those pictures is not to show off or brag, but to let you know that just like these shoes, you have to wear the shoes that's fit for the task. As an educator, you have to put on a body that's fit for the task. Okay? And so hopefully you guys can catch that analogy. All right, you have to wear the body that's fit for the task because it takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort. So go ahead and write in the chat, fit for the task. Okay, just type fit for the task because you have to get yourself in a position where you're mentally and physically fit to do the job that you have to do every day because it is mentally and physically taxing. All right, let's talk about emotional health for a second because I don't have that much time with you guys. All right, now, if you look at this beautiful condo building, all right, it's beautiful. And this is a beautiful condo building in Miami. Check it out. You see the palm trees, you have floor to ceiling, glass windows, you have palm trees and a beautiful pool out there. And depending on what side of the condo you live in, you have an ocean view. Who wouldn't want to live in a condo like this? But think about it, guys. When you're watching the news 2 years ago, this is the same condo that collapsed. It looked beautiful on the outside, but it was falling apart on the inside. When the building inspectors inspected the building, they said there were a lot of structural damage and things of regular maintenance that was supposed to take place over time, but the building was neglected. My question to you is this: how many of us look so good on the outside, but we know that on the inside, we have been neglecting a lot of the things that help keep our integrity and our structure intact? And so during the pandemic, when I would see a teacher, there was one teacher in particular, I would ask how that teacher, I say, hey, how are you doing? And they would say, fine. But as I watched her countenance, I understood that she was saying fine. But fine was like an acronym that meant feelings inside not expressed. And so I had to ask her one day, how are you really doing? And so if you think about that, guys, our stressors, if we just take the amount of stress that we have, and every stress, we blew it into a balloon. Like if we took a deep breath and blew a breath into a balloon for every stress that we thought about, all right, family issues, finances, relationships, bills, students or children, working with difficult parents, professional responsibilities on the job. And imagine we kept blowing the stressor into the balloon. Okay, that balloon would eventually pop. Or, you know what, guys, things that we are holding in, eventually they're going to come out. And imagine if that balloon was full to capacity and we just let it go. Then what would happen? Absolutely. All the air will come out at the same time and that balloon will spiral out of control. So the thing is, guys, we're either going to pop because we're holding so much in, or one day we're going to spiral out of control. And I don't want that to happen to you. So if you need professional help, if you need someone to talk to, all right, seek a person out who you can talk to. Talk to a therapist. Talk to somebody who can understand your emotions. What's bothering you, get it off your chest. okay? Don't hold everything in saying you're fine and wearing a mask, but on the inside, you're crumbling. All right, it's very healthy to do grounding activities and then also practice self-care. There's ways to alleviate stress. Now think about that balloon that has so much air in it. Every time you do one of these self-care activities, what it does, it lets a little bit of air out that balloon. So if you practice self-care, exercise, meditate, go for a walk, do things that you enjoy, spending time with family, all right, going to fun events, having a good time, all right, all those things. You have to set boundaries and manage your time, practice stress management techniques, all right, breathe, yoga, right, those kind of things. And even if you need professional help, and then if you celebrate success and practice gratitude, all of those things help alleviate stress. And when you do that, you could take a deep breath. And then your balloon may still have a little bit of air because in life, you will carry around a certain amount of stress, but it's unhealthy to carry around the amount of stress that a lot of us are carrying around, especially the amount that I was carrying around during the story that I shared with you at the beginning of this webinar. So guys, alleviate that stress, do those self-care activities so some of that air can come out of your balloon. Now, another part of being healthy is controlling your subconscious thoughts. Okay, everybody, what I want you to do is type positive thinking in the chat. Go ahead, type positive thinking in the chat. Now, you have to really ask yourself, all right, are you thinking positive thoughts or is your subconscious mind always thinking about negative thoughts? Let's compare negative thoughts to positive thoughts. All right, negative thoughts will say, I'm average. Positive thoughts, you'll constantly tell yourself, I'm a great person. The negative thoughts will say, I don't have the energy to work as hard as I need to accomplish my goals. Positive thoughts will say, I have the inspiration and determination to do what it takes to achieve personal and professional goals. Your negative thoughts will tell you that I will never be as good as that other person. All right, your positive thoughts will say each person have their own gifts and talents, including me. And so I don't want you guys to compare your life to another person's life because people portray all the positive things and we don't know the negative things they're dealing with. And what you have to realize is comparison is the thief of joy. So let's not compare ourselves to what other people are doing and accomplishing because we will get really sad. So imagine if I wanted a new car and I bought myself a brand new Chevy Impala because I love those cars. Then I saw my neighbor across the street bought a brand new BMW. I was happy with my Impala until I found out that he had a BMW, but I shouldn't make that comparison. Be happy with what you have and express gratitude for it. Now, negative thoughts will say, I'm not be able to obtain everything that I desire in life. But your positive thoughts will say, I deserve the positive desires of my heart because you do. You are a great person and you deserve everything good that life has to offer. Here's a daily affirmation that I started speaking over myself every day. And I want you to take a screenshot with your phone so you can also speak this daily confirmation over your life. So when I wake up in the morning and when I go to bed at night, and even sometimes during the middle of the day, depending on my mood, I would take out my phone and I would pull out the picture that I took of this daily affirmation. And this daily affirmation says, I am blessed, prosperous, redeemed. I am forgiven, talented, creative, disciplined, focused, confident, secure, prepared, qualified, motivated, valuable, free. I am determined, I am equipped, I am empowered, I am anointed, I am accepted, and I am approved. I deserve and receive all good things that life has to offer. Now, when you say this daily affirmation, say it and believe it in your heart, because this is the way that you were designed. And no, I did not make this affirmation up. I got this when I was watching the Joel Osteen sermon. And when I saw that he had his congregation stand up and say this, it brought tears to my eyes. And I said, this is what I need. This is the message that I need to tell myself day in and day out. And I want you to say this to yourself over and over and over again until you start believing it in your heart, in your mind. Because the truth is that you are blessed, you are prosperous, you are redeemed, and you are every single adjective that is on the screen right now. You're secure, you're confident, you're motivated, you are valuable, determined, and you are equipped, and you are empowered, anointed, accepted, and approved. And I want you to know that in the heart of hearts and in your mind that you deserve and that you will gratefully and without hesitancy receive all the good things that life has to offer to you. And I pray this blessing over your life. Now, as we get ready to conclude, here's a person on a job. They look miserable. Here's a person on a mission. These guys look focused, disciplined, and determined. What looks more exciting, being on a job or being on a mission? Here's words to describe a job: obligation, reward with pay, mundane, ordinary. The workday ends. It's a career. You're qualified for it. A job requires work. Here's jobs to describe a mission. You volunteer for it. You get a reward by your feeling of accomplishment. It's exciting. It's extraordinary. Instead of the workday ending, the journey continues. All right. Instead of saying I'm qualified for this job, if it's your mission, you say, this is my life's purpose. Instead of saying I'm qualified for this, you say I'm made for this. The difference between a job and a mission is that a job requires work. But when you're on a life's mission, that requires inspired action. And you do it because you're called to do it. A lot of you guys are called to be a teacher, or you're called to be a school administrator, or you're called to work with children. And in your heart of hearts, you get that sense of reward and that you're called to it because it's your life's purpose and it actually energizes you. You have to look at your position as a teacher or as an educator as your calling, as your life's mission, right? Because that's what it is. And you will be granted the strength and fortitude to do whatever it is that you need to do. All right, there's plenty passages in scriptures that lets you know that God will give you the strength and ability to do what you need in order to be successful, that he will give you the strength so you will mount up like eagles to do the job that he has purposed you for. And I want you to believe that in your heart. So when you see where your job, mission, and your purpose intersect, a job is what you do for yourself to make a living and to earn money. However, your purpose is what you do to help other people. You guys are making a positive impact on your students and your students' families' lives for years to come. So while you're on your job, make it your mission to serve your purpose. And then lastly, express gratitude. As we conclude, I just want you guys to picture this in your mind. If I had two valuable gifts and I gave this gift to two people, if I gave it to person A and the person took the gift and said, thank you, and then just went off on their way and I never heard from them again. But I gave the same valuable gift to person number two. And they said, thank you, Dr. Parker. I really appreciate it. Then a week later, I get a phone call from them and they're telling me how much they appreciate that gift and how they're using it and how it's making a positive impact on their life because I gave them that gift. And then a month later, I get a thank you card in the mail from them. And then they every time I see them, they remind me, hey, I really appreciate this gift that you gave me. Now think about this. If I had that same valuable gift, I had these same two people in front of me, but I could only give this gift to one person this time. Would I give it to person one or would I give it to person two? Type in the chat, person two. You're right, it's person two. Why? Because they express gratitude. So here's the point, guys. When we are grateful for what we do have, and we're grateful for life, we're grateful for blessings, we're grateful for positive people in our life, we're grateful that we have a life purpose, we're grateful for the breath that we breathe every day. Guess what? The way the universe works is we get more and more of that in which we express gratitude for. So what I want you to do, your homework assignment, is to go and make a list of all the things you're grateful for. Denzel Washington put it like this. I read a quote from him the other day. He says what he does is he puts something he needs every morning. He puts it under his bed. And what it does is serves as a reminder he's to start every day off on his knees, giving gratitude to God. Okay? So in the night, he gets on his knees, he puts it under the bed, and he prays. In the morning, he wakes up, he looks under that bed, he's on his knees as a reminder to say his prayer. Say your prayer of gratitude every day, because that's how you will get more and more blessings in your life. So as we conclude, here's your 3 A's. We're aware of our current life circumstances. Number 2, you have to acknowledge it. Number 3, all right, here's the toughest part, where you have to take action. All right, take the action, guys. The smallest deed is worth more than the grandest of intentions. So even if you start making small steps, day by day, month by month, year by year, you will start seeing a change in your health, and you will start living healthy physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financially. And so thank you guys for your time today. I love you guys. I care for you. And I just have a sense to say that there are many people in this call. Right now, I'm seeing there's 2 people in this call who actually was considering suicide. And this is just my private part coming out. You have a situation where you're a single parent, a relationship didn't go good, you're blaming yourself. This is 2 people. Okay, you're in your late 20s, another person is in their early 30s. All right. All right. What the word is telling me is that you will be okay. It's not your fault. You made a decision that was best for you, and all of your needs will be provided. You will have the strength to do what you need to do to take care of yourself and to take care of your family. So fear not. Help is on the way, and you will experience a miracle in your life. And that's just the word that I'm receiving. And sometimes I prophesy, guys. It's just I can't ignore the voice of the Lord. So I pray blessings and peace over all of you guys. I appreciate your time, and I want to see you live healthy, physically, financially, spiritually, and that all of God's blessings will be granted to you. All right, I'm going to hand it back over to you, Kendall and Jessica. Thank you guys for your time.
Yes, thank you so much, Donna. Dr. Parker, I always enjoy your presentations and really just learn so much. I do just want to share a quick few notes about Otis and how we support Catholic educators really across the country. Don, do you mind if I share my screen real quick?
100%. My last message to my participants on the call is that God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. And you guys being educators, you are doing a tough battle, but you are also God's strongest soldiers, and he will give you the strength to do what you need to do. All right, go ahead, Kendall, share your screen. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to pass the torch to you and Jessica.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So I know this webinar is sponsored by Otis, and we did mention that, but if you have yet to hear of Otis, we are an all-in-one platform that really provides educators all of the tools they need to gather, visualize, and act on student data so that you can really help every child reach their full potential. As you know, Dr. Parker echoed throughout the presentation here, it is about you and taking care of yourself so you can take care of your students. And if you're not familiar with Otis, we do keep everything you need in one place to really save you time so you can more efficiently and effectively do just that, support your students. We do offer assessment tools, whether that be formative or summative assessments. We offer standards-based grading and traditional grading tools. We can help you to create progress monitoring plans so that every child gets what they need, whether it's academic, social emotional support, executive functioning. We have custom plans to support all of those needs. But what I really want to show you today is my favorite tool for saving time and using data to really drive instruction. I think as busy educators, it's just so important to leverage technology to make your life easier. So I'm just going to quickly show you something in Otis here, and then I'll hand it back off to Jessica, who will wrap us up here today. But I'm in Otis. I like to just show a tool and exactly what it does. But my favorite tool for using data to support students and really drive instruction is our tool called Query. And that's really just a fancy way of saying search. I want to search all of my student data. Now on my screen here, you can see I've got a number of data sets that you may be familiar with. As a Catholic educator, you may be using NWEA MAP, maybe Renaissance Star, Terra Nova, really any data sets can be visualized in Otis, and you can pull from across them to find students who might need additional support so that you don't have to do what I did when I was a teacher, which is really have 30 different tabs open that I would look across and try to figure out, okay, where is this student at? Where's that student at? How do I pull all this together and do it in a way that isn't going to drive me crazy because I've been poring over different sheets and websites for hours. This does it all for you. So this Query searches across all of your data to find you students who might meet a certain threshold, meaning maybe they're below expectations or above expectations. And all you really do is put in the students that you're looking for, and Otis returns them for you. So this particular report looked at students who had a COGAT score that was at risk, and then also looked at students who had a score on Edmentum's ELA unit assessment. So you can take your, classroom assessments with something like a COGAT assessment or really any assessment, and find students using multiple measures who may need support. And I can see, if your diocese has multiple schools, you can see which percent of students are in that population. You can see the demographics of students. So I searched to find students who had a low or who were at risk on the COGAT assessment. Well, 155 of them are English language learners. Or, for example, 122 of them might be considered tier 2. So Otis will pull across all of your data and put all of these students into a list for you along with their scores. So no more poring over spreadsheets, no more 30 different tabs, everything's in one place, really saving you time so that you can focus on your students, their growth, and supporting their needs. The last thing I'll just mention is that if you want to use this tool to really act on the data, maybe put them in a progress monitoring plan, provide additional reading support because this is what you consider at risk, you can do that right here. You can click the names of students and add them to a group. So it's a very actionable way for you to leverage data that you already have by putting it all in one place. So we always support Dr. Parker and appreciate everyone being here with him today to really talk about taking care of yourself so that you can take care of your students. If you'd like to learn more about Otis, we're at otis.com. We have lots of webinars with Dr. Parker on our website too, so you can check out some of his other content. That's all I have for you. Jessica, I will hand it back off. I know we're just about 2 minutes after, so thank you everyone for staying on here with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you both. Thank you, Dr. Don Parker, for such a great webinar for NCEA. And thank you, Kendall and Otis, for sponsoring it and bringing us all together today. I did just pop in the chat the survey for the end of the webinar. If you complete that survey, then you will receive the certificate of completion. It is an automatically populated certificate after you have submitted that survey data. So if you do not receive it in the next 5 minutes from completing your survey, reach out to me and we'll make sure that we get it. But you can also check your spam folder because it does come from an automated service. The recording, as well as another link of the survey, will be sent out via email to all of those who registered and who were in attendance, as well as uploaded to our YouTube channel. And you can always visit NCEA professional development page for all of our upcoming webinars. Thank you guys again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you again, Dr. Parker. Thank you, Jessica. Have a great day, everyone.
And have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.